She was the queen of rockabilly, a firecracker with a voice that could tear through a room like lightning. Her sound was a raw, untamed force in an era when women in music were supposed to be sweet, demure, and predictable. But before the world knew her name, before that signature growl that would inspire generations of rebels, she was a teenage country singer from Oklahoma who happened to capture the heart of a king. He was a cultural earthquake, a swiveling, electrifying phenomenon of charisma and controversy. He didn't just sing songs, he redrew the entire map of popular music. And he saw something in Wanda that no one else did, maybe not even herself. The advice he gave her during their secret romance wouldn't just change her life, it would change the course of music forever. This is the story of that advice, the love that sparked it, and how a quiet country girl became a rock and roll queen, all because of Elvis Presley. But to understand the moment that changed everything, you first have to go back to a time before the sold-out shows and the screaming fans, to a place where two very different paths were being paved, destined to collide in a spectacular flash of history, in the heartland of America. During the Dust Bowl years, the story of Wanda Jackson begins. Born in Maud, Oklahoma, in 1937, her world was shaped by two things: the church and country music. Her father, Tom, was the key. He was a musician himself, a guitarist and singer, who'd put his own dreams on hold during the Great Depression to provide for his family. But that dream never really died. He just passed it down to his daughter. He bought Wanda her first guitar when she was only 6 and patiently taught her the country and western chords that filled their home. The family moved to California for a few years, exposing Wanda to a richer mix of sounds, from western swing to the bluesy laments of field workers. But Oklahoma was home. When they returned, Wanda's talent was undeniable. She was a natural. By her early teens, she had her own 15-minute radio show in Oklahoma City. She was a prodigy of the country tradition, with a clear, honest voice perfect for the genre's heartfelt ballads. Her big break came in 1954, at just 16. The titan of honky-tonk, Hank Thompson, heard her perform and was so blown away he invited her to sing with his band, the Brazos Valley Boys. And let me tell you, this was a huge deal. Thompson's endorsement opened the door to a record deal with Decca Records. Just like that, Wanda Jackson was a professional recording artist, a teenager touring with seasoned country vets, always under the watchful eye of her father, who came along as her road manager and chaperone. Her life was on a clear path. She was a good girl, singing country music, fitting the genre's conservative image. She was poised to become another respectable star in the country music establishment, maybe the next Kitty Wells. There was absolutely no hint of the firestorm to come, no sign of the raw guttural growl that lay dormant inside her. She was a country singer. That was her world. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Memphis, Tennessee, a different kind of revolution was brewing, and it was all wrapped up in one young man, Elvis Aaron Presley. Born in a two-room shack in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis's musical education was a world away from Wanda's. He was baptized in the sounds of the American South, the gospel hymns from church, the raw emotion of the bluesmen on Beale Street, and the country storytelling he heard on the Grand Ole Opry. He was a walking, breathing blend of America's most vital and segregated music. When he walked into Sam Phillips' Son's studio in 1954, that blend exploded. His recording of That's All Right wasn't country, and it wasn't R&B. It was something new, something dangerous, something electrifying. It was rockabilly. When Elvis hit the scene, he wasn't just a singer, he was an event. The static, polite crooners of the day were instantly shattered by his dynamic stage presence. He swiveled his hips in a way that scandalized adults and electrified teenagers. He was a lightning bolt striking the placid landscape of 1950s pop culture. By 1955, these two worlds were on a collision course. Wanda was a respected artist on the country circuit. Elvis was the controversial new act that promoters added to those same tours to sell tickets to the kids. She was the past and present of country music. He was the future of, well, everything. They were about to meet, and nothing would ever be the same. The place was Cape Girardeau, Missouri. The year 1955. It was just another stop on a package, tours, with a bus full of artists traveling from town to town. For Wanda Jackson, it was business as usual. At 17, she was already a road veteran, used to performing her set of pure country songs and moving on, all with her father watching from the wings. But on the bill that summer was a name that was generating a strange and powerful buzz. Elvis Presley. Wanda had heard of him, how could you not? Radio stations were tentatively playing his records, and stories of the pandemonium he caused were spreading like wildfire. But her first real encounter wasn't a record, it was seeing him live, and it was a shock. He was nothing like the polished country gentleman she shared the stage with. He was pure energy, a coiled spring of charisma that exploded in the spotlight. He shook, he gyrated, he commanded the stage with a confidence that was both arrogant and completely captivating. The audience, especially the teenagers, went nuts. They screamed, they cried, they lunged for the stage. Wanda and her father watched from the side, trying to make sense of the spectacle. This wasn't a country concert. This was something else entirely. But behind the wild stage persona was a different person. Off stage, Elvis was polite, charming, and surprisingly down-to-earth, a young man from Mississippi, just a couple of years older than her. He noticed her too, the quiet, pretty girl with the powerful country voice. Throughout the tour, Elvis made a point to seek her out. He was disarmingly sweet, with a southern charm that was hard to resist. He started asking her out on dates, but Wanda was hesitant. Her father was famously protective, but Elvis did something different. He approached her father directly, man to man, and respectfully asked for permission. Tom Jackson, a pretty good judge of character, saw past the frantic headlines. He sought a polite young man. To Wanda's shock, her father said yes. He trusted Elvis. Their dates weren't glamorous. They were stolen moments in the whirlwind of the tour, a trip to a local movie theater, a quiet talk in a diner. It was then that Wanda saw the real Elvis. He was thoughtful, a little shy, and deeply passionate about music. A bond formed, built on a shared experience no one else could really understand. One day, he turned to her and asked her to be his girl. It was old-fashioned and deeply sincere. He gave her one of his own rings to seal the deal. It was too big, so he told her to wear it on a chain around her neck, a secret symbol of their relationship. For Wanda, a girl who'd spent her life focused on her career, this was her first serious romance, and it was with the most famous rising star on the planet. Dating Elvis in 1955 and 56 was like living in the eye of a hurricane. His fame was exploding, the crowds got bigger, the screams got louder. The logistics of it all started to strain their relationship. He was based in Memphis, she was in Oklahoma. Phone calls became their lifeline. He'd tell her about the whirlwind of TV appearances and recording sessions, and she'd connect him back to the simpler country world they both came from. But as his star shot into the stratosphere, it became clear their sweet romance couldn't survive. They were destined to be brief. But in that short time, Elvis would give Wanda a gift far more lasting than a ring. He would give her a new future. The heart of Wanda and Elvis's relationship wasn't just teenage romance, it was a deep musical connection. And the most pivotal moment didn't happen backstage, but in the quiet of Elvis's home in Memphis. When the tour passed through, he invited her to his house on Audubon Drive, away from the screaming fans. He showed her his true self, his record collection. He led her into a room filled with stacks of vinyl and started pulling out records, not just country artists they both loved, but stuff Wanda, the straight-laced country singer, had never heard before. He played her the raw, gut-bucket blues of Big Joe Turner, the ecstatic shouts of Little Richard, and the soulful R&B of the Drifters. For Wanda, it was an education. This was the source code for Elvis's sound. This was the so-called forbidden music, the passionate, rhythmic sound that the establishment hated but the new generation craved. It was during one of these listening sessions that he turned to her, his eyes full of conviction. He saw this talented country singer who could hold her own with anyone, and he saw the fire hidden behind her polite country facade. "Wanda," he said, with a startling urgency, "you should be doing this. You have to sing rock and roll." The suggestion hit her like a ton of bricks. It was a challenge to her entire identity. "But Elvis, I can't," she protested. "I'm a country singer. That's all I know. And besides," she added, stating the obvious, "I'm a girl." Let's be clear, in the mid-1950s, that last point was a huge barrier. Rock and roll was a man's world. It was Jerry Lee Lewis kicking over his piano bench, Little Richard screaming with wild abandon, and Elvis himself, the picture of male rebellion. The idea of a woman stepping into that arena with the same raw energy was basically unheard of. But Elvis wouldn't be deterred. He leaned in and said the words that would echo in her mind for the rest of her life. "I am too, basically," he said, talking about his own country roots. "But you can do this. I know you can." Coming from anyone else, she might have brushed it off, but this was Elvis Presley. He wasn't just a star, he was this new genre. His word was gospel. For him to tell Wanda that she could conquer this new world was an incredible act of belief. He wasn't just a boyfriend, he was a mentor. He saw her as an equal, an artist with untapped potential. He kept at it, encouraging her to let go of the rigid country structures and find her own growl, her own uninhibited shout. The seeds he planted didn't sprout overnight. Wanda was still under contract with Decca, and her romance with Elvis was fading under the pressure of his global fame. By 1957, their relationship had become a warm friendship. The ring was put away, and their lives moved on. But his advice, that lingered, a powerful whisper waiting for the right moment to ignite. Elvis had shown her a door. Now, she just had to find the courage to walk through it. The end of Wanda's romance with Elvis was less of a heartbreak and more of a slow, inevitable drift. But the impact of his words was just beginning to surface. The polite world of country music now felt too small. She knew she had to make a change. First step, a new label. Her Decca contract was up, so she made a crucial move to Capitol Records, home to another rockabilly pioneer, Gene Vincent. There, she found a producer, Ken Nelson, who was willing to let her take a risk. Wanda didn't just flip a switch to rock and roll. It was a process. One of her early Capitol recordings, a song called I Gotta Know, is the perfect example. The verses are pure country, delivered with the sweet tone everyone expected. But then, the chorus hits, the tempo kicks up, the drums crash in, and Wanda's voice unleashes a hint of that grit and swagger. The song literally had a split personality, perfect metaphor for an artist stepping from one world into the next. The experiment worked. I Gotta Know was a hit. Emboldened, she pushed further. A song called Fujiyama Mama became a massive hit, not in America, but in Japan, where she was treated with the same frenzy as Elvis. She was an international rock and roll star, but the song that would forever cement her status, the one that earned her the royal title, came from a source directly linked to her mentor. She decided to record Let's Have a Party, a song Elvis had performed in his movie Loving You. In his hands, it was a fun number. In Wanda's hands, it became an anthem. She didn't just sing it, she attacked it, and then there was the growl, that legendary, ferocious vocal tick that became her trademark. It was the sound of a woman completely unleashed, shattering every expectation of how a female singer should sound. It was powerful, dangerous, and pure rock and roll. Her version of Let's Have a Party stormed the charts. The country girl was gone. In her place stood Wanda Jackson, the queen of rockabilly. The transformation was total. The sweet country dresses were replaced by glamorous, fringed outfits her mother sewed. She wore high heels and red lipstick, exuding a confidence and sensuality that was revolutionary. She took the stage not as a polite performer, but as a commander. She was one of the first women in music to get that the image was just as important as the sound. This was the full realization of what Elvis had seen years before. He had encouraged her to unleash her fire, and now, the whole world could hear it. She hadn't just taken his advice, she'd used it to build her own kingdom. The reign of Wanda Jackson as a rockabilly hitmaker was like the first wave of rock and roll itself, relatively short. As the 60s dawned, tastes changed, and she gracefully returned to her country roots for a long and successful career. But the impact of her rockabilly years was permanent. She had kicked down a door, proving a woman could rock with as much power and aggression as any man. Her title, the Queen of Rockabilly, wasn't just a slogan. It was a hard-won fact. Though their romance ended decades earlier, her connection to Elvis remained a cornerstone of her story. She knew he had been the pivotal figure in her artistic life, the mentor who saw a future for her that she couldn't see for herself. She honored him throughout her career, even releasing a 2006 tribute album called I Remember Elvis, which included a beautiful, personal song she wrote, I Wore Elvis's Ring. The seeds of rebellion Wanda sowed grew into a forest of influence. From punk rock snarls to the bravado of modern country and rock stars, her DNA is everywhere. Artists like Rosanne Cash and Jack White have all cited her as an inspiration. White even produced her 2011 comeback album, The Party Ain't Over, introducing her to a whole new generation. In 2009, the establishment finally gave her her due. Wanda Jackson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Looking back, the story of Wanda Jackson and Elvis Presley is more than just celebrity romance. It's a testament to the power of seeing the potential in someone else. Their romance was brief, but the advice that grew from it sparked a revolution. Elvis Presley was the king, but one of his greatest acts was empowering the woman who would become the queen. He gave her permission to be loud, and she had the courage to turn up the volume for generations to come.